Hello and welcome to Keys to the Market with Raisa Lawson, Realtor at the House Store. Today we're going to talk about a topic that everybody has but don't really truly understand, and that is your homeowner's insurance. And to help us explore this, we have special guest Deb Chastain with Archer Insurance. So Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being on. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yes, so I work at Archer Insurance Agency. We are a full insurance brokerage, so that means that we don't just have one carrier, we have access to hundreds, so that we're really able to help shop insurance and help people find the best fit for them, because as we'll probably talk about a lot, not every insurance policy is for every person. You need something different for each person.
Okay, great. So let's just kind of jump right in here. Before we get started though, we do want to make a disclaimer. So this conversation is for general purposes only. Insurance policies do vary by company, by policy and individual circumstances. So homeowners should always speak directly with their own insurance provider and ask about specific coverage needs. So just make sure that we understand that little disclaimer for us before we get started. So first of all, let's just kind of jump in and talk about what insurance is and kind of how the policy works. How many people actually read their policy?
Not very many.
Very many.
You'd be surprised at how few people have actually read their policy. And every once in a while, we'll get a call that somebody will say, hey, I just saw this on my policy and I had no idea that this was a piece of it. I'm like, no, it's okay. Before being in insurance, I had never read my policy, so I am one of the others. So I understand completely.
And until I really started thinking about this podcast, I was like, I really do wonder how many people actually read their policy. So it would be interesting to know. So maybe in the comments, just comment yes or no if you have actually read your insurance policy. But comment no if you haven't read it. Don't read it, and then comment yes. we want a true poll here. Yeah.
It doesn't count if you've only read your premium.
Yes, that is true. Okay, so can you just kind of talk a little bit about the policy and the deductible and how that part works?
Yes. So a deductible is a thing that we hear all the time, and people kind of feel like they understand what it means, but they're not exactly sure. A deductible is really just what you pay before insurance steps in. So if I have a claim for $10,000 and my deductible is $1,000, I'm going to pay $1,000 and the insurance company will pay $9,000, up to obviously limits and different things like that. But it's really just your piece of the pie that you have to take care of.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some different things that can impact your policy. And I think that's where a lot of people get a little bit lost, is they have some changes and they don't think to tell their insurance agent. So they just kind of think, oh, I get a dog, or I make changes to my house, or I got married, or we've had children. Like, they don't really think to make those changes with the insurance agent. So let's just kind of talk about each one of those and how important it is to let your agent know if you've had those changes.
Yes, that is absolutely huge. There's so many life changes that we all go through. Get married, get divorced, have kids move out. There's so many different things that happen, and every single one of those is so important to talk to your agent about. Even things you wouldn't think about, like getting a new pet. There are actually some pets that are on a kind of a disliked list by insurance companies, typically the more dangerous breeds, or if they've bitten somebody, that could mean not only could it make your premium more expensive, they could actually just cancel your policy if they didn't know about that. And so those are huge things to let your agent know about. Any big changes really come into play. Some that I think about all the time is people moving out or moving in. People who get roommates, or now they decided they were gonna rent one of the rooms, or Airbnb obviously is huge now. So having people come and stay, doing things like that is a big issue if you don't let your insurance agent know.
So if let's just say we get a dog and it's a breed that's on the not liked list, and we don't tell the insurance agent that we got the dog, and we have company over, the dog bites someone, call the insurance company, what kind of happens at that point?
Now, it depends a lot on your carrier, on your agent, but the odds are it's probably not going to be covered because it wasn't listed on your policy because they didn't know it happened. And we get the comment all the time, oh, I thought you learned about this stuff, or I thought you just got a notification. I renoed my whole kitchen. You didn't know? No, I didn't know. So big things like that too will change the value of your house by a lot. So let's say you spent $10,000 renovating your kitchen. If your house burns down, there could be a gap in your coverage because we didn't know that the value has increased.
And that's kind of the same with an addition too. Like if you
Yeah.
convert a garage to living space or
Yeah.
add on a bonus room or something, you've
Yeah.
got that additional value, but it's
Yeah.
not in your original policy. So, and if you're doing the work, the insurance company doesn't know unless you tell them.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Roof replacements too are a huge thing to let your insurance company know about, because obviously the value is so much higher, but also it could even help your rates or get you on a better policy, because an older roof can sometimes affect those things. And with additions, things like pools are huge. A lot of people will buy a home and then add in a pool. That's big because of obviously the value that adds for rebuild, but also the liability that adds. And there's some dangerous things like not having a fence around the pool that could cause your policy to get canceled, because they do inspections, they do, flyovers, they look at the Google Map photos, so they will find out, and that could be a bad thing if you didn't tell them.
Yeah, they can find out. I know a lot of times I see orders go through for different things. Real estate agents will get them too. Sometimes will be contracted to go out and drive by a house, take photos.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because the homeowner is doing a renovation loan or a refi, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is from the bank or the insurance company just verifying that yes, the house is still
Yeah.
standing, it's still in good shape. So there are ways for the changes to be found out.
Yeah.
So always be upfront and honest with your insurance company. And one question too I wanted to ask to that. So if they don't turn something in and then something happens and they get their policy canceled, how easy is it for them to move to another insurance company after they've been canceled?
It makes it really hard. You never want to wait until something gets canceled. You don't want to, I've heard people, they're like, oh, I won't cancel it, I'm about to come up on renewal, I'll just not pay and it'll be fine. No, you have to let your insurance agent know that you want to cancel that policy, because you don't want them to ever be the one canceling on you, because that can cause a lot of issues in the future with getting a new policy.
So always call your insurance agent and
Yes.
say, hey, I got a dog, I made an addition, I renovated the kitchen, I got married, had a child. Any kind of big changes, just always tell your insurance agent.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. So let's talk a little bit about home use. So when people get their initial insurance, it's typically just for homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
And then let's say the wife has kids, she's now stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And she wants to have a little additional income while she's waiting on the kids to get out of school. She's a little bored, so she wants to start a little side business.
Yeah.
So then she has a home-based business,
Mm.
but she has not called the insurance agent to say, I have started a home-based business in my home. What do I need to do? So how does that work?
Yes, so always, always, always call your agent if there's anything that could be any type of link between business and your personal insurance. So whether that's obviously vehicles, but your home as well. A lot of people don't think about that as when you are using your home for people are coming to your home to receive products. If you're keeping products in your home, if anything like that, there could be liability issues, there could be coverage issues, because you may not have enough coverage to cover that. You also may not be covered for that specific thing if it's on the exclusion list. And that really depends on every policy. Also depends on what your home-based business is. Some of them are acceptable, some of them are not. Some of them you will have to get commercial insurance to be able to cover it. So it's very much a depends question, so you'll have to ask your agent on it, but
Yes.
you definitely want to let them know and talk through what that would look like.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if you start a home-based business and let's just say you're going to sell jewelry out of your home. Jewelry costume jewelry, maybe not as bad, but it still can add up. So you have a lot of inventory stacked up in your house, and then let's just say something happens, you have a house fire or you get burglarized, and then your inventory is either destroyed or gone.
Yeah.
And then you call your insurance agent up and you're like, oh, well, I had all this inventory of jewelry and they're like, what? Like they have no idea. So that's not going to be covered when you turn your claim in. So that's important too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things with big ticket items in your home, whether for a business. I know even some realtors will have storage units or separate spaces where they keep staging stuff. Furniture is very expensive.
Yes.
And that's not something that would just automatically be assumed to be covered on a policy.
Yeah.
But even things like your diamond rings, if you have necklaces, earrings that are worth a lot, musical instruments, art, furs, there's so many different types of things and collectibles that you could have that could really be expensive, and a lot of policies have special limits for certain things. So it is not just up to your personal property limit, it has special limits for those things. So you'll want to have what we call scheduled property. So it's where we know what's in your home, we know that it's valuable, and we know that it's going to be covered in case of a loss.
So, valuables can be an issue for sure. So if someone does, like, they just start collecting, or they already have a collection they just forgot to tell their agent about, what is the best way for them to like track that? Is it enough to just like write down like a list of everything they have and itemize like a value? Do you need pictures, video? Like what kind of details do you need from the homeowner?
Yeah, absolutely. For specific scheduled items, so those large value items, it'll depend by carrier, by insurance agent, and by the amount of value. Some of them are going to have appraisals and different things like that. But even for your regular items, you should be walking through your home with a video camera and taking pictures and videos of everything that you own. Because if you had a big fire, we all think, okay, I know what I own. We have no idea what's in our house. It's like when you empty out the junk drawer and you're like, oh, I had no idea what was in here.
Or you find something that you've been looking for 2 years and it's in the bottom of the junk drawer.
Exactly.
Yes. I know when I was preparing for this podcast, I was just kind of mentally run through things before each podcast, and I thought, if I really had to account for everything in my house, how much could I actually account for?
Yeah.
And mentally, I think maybe half,
Yeah.
but that's probably pushing it, because there are like things you use seasonally, or things that maybe an heirloom piece of jewelry that you only wear on a special occasion. So those kind of things, they're not always front of mind. So it is a great idea to document that. So if they have if they purchase a big ticket item, is there any need to turn any kind of receipts in based on the value of what they paid for the item?
Sometimes there could be a need for that. It really just depends on the item, the value of it, how easy that is to track. But sometimes that would be important. If you are planning to buy something very big that's going to be stored in your home, or even engagement rings, things like that, that would be a great thing to keep a receipt for, because it may be helpful for documentation purposes.
Okay, that sounds really great. So here's a little challenge for all of our viewers. So when you get home and you have, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 extra minutes, go to your front door, turn on your little video on your camera, and just walk through your whole house and video every room. Just kind of make a circle in the room, show every wall. That way you get all the wall art, you get all the furniture. If you have little knickknacks you sit around, or a curio full of grandma's antique collection, or a china cabinet full of expensive dishes or crystal, be sure you get all those things. But just take an inventory and see, when you walk through and you really start looking as you pan your camera, how much of that would you really call to mind if you had to. So that's kind of a good challenge for all of our viewers. So let us know if you went home and made a video, for sure, and how much you thought you knew you had. Okay, so kind of transitioning on from that, we talked about pets a little bit and the home inventory. So and the big ticket items, if we have things that we know, and I've heard this from people before, especially like with homeowners, people are buying a new home, and let's say they have a gun collection, or grandma's stamp collection from long ago that's worth so much money. Sometimes I've heard people say, well, I don't want to disclose that because then people know I have it. So, and I have heard that actually multiple times, and I kind of get that, like the fear in the back of their mind. If somebody knows it's there, it's more of a target. But it's not like an insurance company goes and broadcasts, we're not going to put on your podcast that Sally Sue at 102 Main Street has grandma's antique collection. So the safety and knowing that when they put this on their paperwork with you or whatever, like just knowing that it's not gonna, the security of it, it's not gonna be anywhere where like a lot of people can see it. So for the ones who I've heard that said, and then maybe if you're thinking it and maybe haven't actually said it, it is something to think about, because some people do have a little bit of concern with that. It's like the people in the old times when they hid their money under the mattress because they didn't want the bank to know how much money they had. So it's sort of that mindset. So what can you say to people to kind of put their mind at ease over that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as insurance agents, we hold a lot of valuable information, and we keep that very, very secretive. For the, obviously, even payment information, you're paying your premium, different things like that we're handling, emails and phone numbers, all of that is very private information. And the same thing with anything that you own in your home, any valuables, All of that is completely secure. So none of that gets shared with anybody. None of that is public information, but it is very, very important information for your insurance agent to know, because you don't want to have issues on the back end of that. But all of that information is completely secure. That's not shared with anybody. It's not being brought on the podcast.
Yeah.
So that information is completely secure.
Yeah, it's kind of like, as you mentioned with your banking information, you've already given your bank account information for that payment to come out every month, and you're trusting that. So just go that extra step and just trust them to know that you have that gun collection or that antique collection of whatever, because at the end of the day, if something were to happen, you just want to know you have that coverage for sure. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about severe weather. And we have, seems like more of that now than we used to around here. It's almost like every time we turn around, we're seeing roof damage and down trees and things like that. And so when you have storm damage, can you talk a little bit about, let's talk about the process. Like, do they, if there's emergency needs, obviously that's got to be handled. But like, what's the process? Who do they call first? Do they do something and then call the insurance company? Do they call first and then, worry about getting things taken care of, aside from emergencies, obviously? But just sort of how that process works, and then how that ties into the policy also.
Yeah, absolutely. So storms are a big thing around here. Both winter storms, we had this past winter, we had a lot of ice storms. Pipes freeze, you have a lot of issues with that, but then also tornadoes. There's a lot of wind. We just had a bunch of wind.
We did. Yes.
So it's always a big thing. We're always getting calls about those things. If something happens to your home, so a pipe bursts and water is everywhere, or a tree comes through your window, the very first thing is obviously make sure everybody's safe. Make sure the area is safe. Don't walk in your glass without shoes on, things like that. Make sure everything is being handled safely. But then you're going to want to do whatever you can to prevent further damage. So if it is storming outside, or it's going to storm again after it just stormed, which happens a lot here.
It does.
You're going to want to put something up. If there's a hole in your wall, you need a tarp, something to try to keep more water and more damage from coming in. So that is always the first step, is trying to prevent further damage. But then call your agent and kind of discuss what's on your policy, what's covered, what is the process for filing a claim, what's your deductible, what is all of that going to look like, and they'll be able to walk you through the steps, which will typically be then having somebody come repair it, start doing anything that needs to be done. But you can absolutely start repairing things on your own prior to that, but you'll want to have the documentation already, pictures, videos, anything that can help them to see what happened, why it happened, and help with that claims process. So safety, documentation, call your agent, and then continue on with repairs.
That's a good process order. I know when the tornado came through a couple of years ago here, it was just, I don't think anything we really expected for the amount of damage that we had in our area. And I just heard so many people say, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should call the insurance company first, or should I just get somebody out here? And, we had several things happen at our house as well. We had a tree that almost went through our house, but it took the back deck down, and it was hanging like off the house, but it was also covering the back door. And so it's just a whole safety thing, because if the tree tilted anymore, like the whole back deck would have just caved. So obviously safety, the first thing was we needed to get that tree off of the roof. So that was our first phone call. But then after I got that lined up, I did call my agent. And I was like, listen, hey, we have the tornado came through. And so there is an order to do things, but safety, as you said, always first. But it's also important to note that, and I discovered this firsthand with the tornado, you can hire pretty much any contractor that you want to hire, but they don't all work with the insurance companies.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we tell people when it comes to having people come into your home with contractors. We even just recently had an issue with this, but if anyone is coming to your home to do anything at all, you want to make sure that they are licensed and insured. Yes. Because if they don't have insurance, and especially if they don't have a license, that's the same as hiring Bob down the street to come over to your house. They have nothing that's protecting you from anything that they do, any damage that they make on your home. But also, even if they fall off the ladder trying to cut the tree down, or cut their arm off trying to cut the tree down, you could be liable for those damages because it happened on your property if they're not carrying insurance. So
that's
always ask to see their insurance. Make sure that they have all the correct licensing and insurance for what they are doing.
And that's a big risk too, because, and I know I was watching them and they were up on the roof, and I was terrified because I was afraid the roof was going to finish caving in.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, what if they fall? So, just that worry in my heart, but knowing that the tree company we hired was licensed, they weren't insured. So, there were protocols in place, but also when they're licensed and insured, in the back of my mind, it also kind of made me pause and think, well, they've went that extra step to do that, to make sure that they've secured insurance and the licensing. So they're also probably going to have a lot more experience. Yeah. So you're going to feel a lot more confident just all the way around, not only that they are licensed and insured, but that they just know more what they're doing. They've had the extra training, they've got the expertise. Yeah. So all the way around, just make sure that they are licensed and insured for sure.
Yeah, and any reputable company would not have any issue with you asking to see the insurance. That's a completely normal request. And so don't feel weird asking for it. If they're weird about giving it to you, that might be a red flag.
Yes, definitely. Okay, well, we'll get back to you. And then you call somebody else or call your insurance agent and say, do you have a vendor list? Because I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then they can, and I'm sure all agents do, or they should. So if you need a contractor for a certain lane, call your agent and say, hey, look, a tree fell through, I need a roofer, or I need my window repaired, and they can give you vendors that they know are licensed and insured.
And that's one of the best things about having a local agent is they know the area, they know the people who work there, and they've probably worked with them before. They're not just names on a list. They're people that they see everywhere and they know well. So.
Yes, that is good because, and too, it's, territorial, like our terrain here is different than so many other parts of the country. And so if you're talking to somebody on the other side of, the United States, they may think, oh, okay, so, a tree coming through a window here, it's not going to be anything like it might be somewhere else. So just different issues and the valleys and the hills and the mountains. So it's just very different here. So the local is good too. I like that because it does keep it knowledgeable, but also just, the relationship. Because when you refer people, you want somebody that has experience. Like if I called you up and said, oh, hey, do you know a handyman? Yeah. And you say, oh, yeah, John Green down the street does it. Okay, so I call John Green. She's never used John Green. She just knows he does it. John Green comes and, So, yes, when you call, you want people that know that expertise. You want to know that they've used them, they've worked with them, they have the stories from satisfied customers, and to know that when they send them out, people are satisfied with that work, so you're going to get a quality job.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very, very important. I like that aspect too, local. I love that. I think we've pretty much covered everything that we kind of had on our topic list. If we have talked about something that you may have further questions about, always feel free to reach out to either Deb or myself. I'll have all her contact information posted, and if you need insurance, Deb is fantastic, so definitely give her a call. And so to kind of close this out, we're going to do one of my favorite parts of the podcast. We're going to do what I call the rapid fire round. So I'll just ask like a series of questions, and then if you'll just say call your agent or not, which I think we're going to know the answer to all of these before, but let's just kind of roll through some of these and see where we get. So I bought a new home.
Call your agent.
Call your agent for sure.
We will not know you moved if you don't tell us.
That is very true. I replaced a roof.
Call your agent.
And I added a swimming pool in the backyard.
Call your agent.
Call your agent, definitely, because they're going to say put a fence around that pool too.
Oh, yeah.
I started a business in my home.
Call your agent.
And I moved out of the house because it's now for sale.
Call your agent.
Because that goes back to our vacant homes.
Yes, vacancy is a big thing that people don't think about, that you need to tell your agent about, because if it is vacant for a certain amount of time, it is now classified as a vacant home, and that is not covered on typical policies, and it may be a big exclusion. So if that vacant home burnt down, you may not be covered at all. So call your agent.
Call your agent for sure, yes. Okay, I adopted a dog.
Call your agent.
Your agent. I bought a $15,000 piece of jewelry.
Call your agent.
Yes. Let's see, I'm doing a major renovation.
Call your agent.
Yes. And I inherited a house.
Oh, call your agent.
Like definitely. A second house. So you're living in a house that's covered, and then you inherit Aunt Betty's house. Well, it's not automatically swept underneath your policy.
And that's going to be a huge thing as well, because if Aunt Betty passed away and that's why you're inheriting it, the policy is likely in Aunt Betty's name. And so that could be a huge issue if you just left it like that, thinking, oh, it's got 6 more months, I'll just leave it over there. Definitely call your agent.
Call your agent. I haven't looked at my policy in 7 years.
Call your agent, call a new agent, call some agent.
Call an agent and read your policy. Okay, so I think we see a little theme here. Call your agent for
Yes.
sure.
And if you have an agent who doesn't answer the phone, find a new agent.
Yes, call Deb. She will answer her
Yes.
phone. I can
will.
promise you that. Okay, so do you have any final advice for just anyone listening to the podcast?
Yeah, I think the big thing, obviously, we've talked about is call your agent if you have any changes, anything's going on, or if you have questions. Obviously, read your policy, go through each of those documents, try to understand what it's saying, what you're covered for, what you're not covered for. A lot of policies have exclusions, and every policy is different. A lot of the times people will think, oh, well, this is covered on my neighbor's policies. They said that was okay. Well, it may not be covered on yours. Every carrier, every policy is different. And so making sure to read yours, understand it, and ask questions. It's okay to call your agent and say, hey, I have no idea what this means. Can you explain it to me? That's our job. I love
Yes.
to be able to help people through that. The same way, if I'm buying a home, there's so much I don't know. I'm going to call Raisa because you know the answer to
Yes.
it. Because that's what my
Yeah.
agent's for, is to answer those questions, not leave me to try to Google random terms and hope for the best.
Right, yeah.
So,
Google can be helpful, but it's not always trustworthy. So
Yeah.
definitely call a professional. That way you get the expert advice that you need for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so review your policy, and as our challenge we gave earlier, get that camera out when you get home
Yeah.
and go through your house, make your little video, leave us some feedback. I would love to know how many people actually have read your policy and how many people actually do the little video and tour your not just your furniture but valuables, just all your
Yeah.
belongings, so that you know what would be on a claim if you had to do it.
Yeah.
So a couple of little challenges on the end of this one too. So
Yeah.
Deb, awesome information. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And as always, just remember, if you or anyone you know is looking to buy or sell, Raisa Lawson, Realtor at the House Store, where every move matters.